come back on, and we're gonna have like a Q&A panel right now. So yeah, thank you so much. Once again, you're all fantastic. Individually.
Really. Thank you.
We can't wait for put this around the room here.
Yeah, and if you have a question for them, you could put in the chat if you want to do it out loud. One way we can do this, down on the bottom again on the toolbar, the bottom toolbar on Zoom, there is a reactions button. If you click on that reactions button, you're going to see a raise hand button. Click the raise hand button. We'll see it. We'll call on you to ask your question out loud. Yeah.
That's awesome. But first, I just want to get the first question started. Yeah. So everyone here has a ridiculous amount of improv experience, and we've all decided to stay in the game after quite some time. What keeps you doing improv? What do you still love about improv after all this time? Anyone want to go first? Yeah, Elke. Yeah, go for it.
I mean, just the fact that, I like to call it freestyle acting, because that's the best way that I can explain it to civilian. Because, people like, what is improv? I've heard so much about it. I don't know what is it? Is it you just making, it's freestyle acting, basically. And even with freestyle acting, you have to know the basics. And I just love learning like new things that can be used as, new tools to use to work on my instrument. And I love seeing people who haven't done it like fall in love with it. That's one of my favorite things. That's why I love teaching, because when they get it and it clicks, and then they're like, oh man, I got to do this all the time. I love that.
I love it. All right. Yeah, Terry.
Yeah, I want to add to that, the sense of play. And I got such a reminder of that just yesterday when I visited, because it's lockdown everywhere. But yesterday I got to visit a friend of mine who lives out of town, and his daughter, who is almost 5 years old. And we sat down and we played together. And I just got lost in the play. I forgot about her just putting things together like Lego and stuff. And like that play, it's the best. I mean, it really is.
Oh, yeah. Marcus?
So I come to the table originally as an actor. I'm still an actor, right? Elke, you spoke about that beautifully. Another reason why I do it is when someone asks me what I do, I get to say, I teach adults how to play again and humans how to be better communicators. And right now, the world needs improv for connection reasons. And if I can affect one person and that affects everyone in their circle, that's how true change can happen.
Ah, so good, so good, so good. Michelle? Yeah, Winnie?
Well, for me, it's all of that, right? It's the connection, it's the play and the fun. It's like seeing it in other people. It's this idea that it is an infinite thing that I will never completely master. And the competitiveness in me is like, that makes me just want to keep trying, right? To know that it's something you can always keep getting better at is really exciting. And I just haven't ever gotten sick of it. It's just so effing fun. And all the people who do it, I mean, look at this group of people on the screen right now. Like, I didn't know a lot of you when we started this, and like, how can I not want to keep doing this and make my way out to Norway? Like, how is that not possible for people? Yeah. I don't understand people who don't like improv.
Yeah, fair. Michelle?
I echo everything that everyone has said here, and I'll add that for me personally, it is the highest level of spiritual presence I feel when I'm on stage. Yeah. I am in the moment, and it feels like almost no other feeling.
Ah, love it, love it, love it.
The spirituality.
Woo! Love it. Roland, we got questions?
Yeah, we got a question. Again, if you want to speak it out loud, you feel free to click on that raise your hand button. But Liz Mary asked in the chat, how do y'all pull yourselves through creativity and improv droughts without burning out?
Ooh.
How do you go through those droughts without burning out?
How do we get through those droughts?
Oh, I can go there.
Go for it.
I have no idea because I've been in a drought now for two years, and I can curse now 2 fucking years, and it's just terrible in any ways possible. But I know it is there. It is there, and I'm really working on finding my way back. And sometimes I have it, and then it's gone for a second, but I know it is there for me to reconnect with. So yeah.
Nice.
I'll say something.
Yeah, please.
So I kind of said it in my talk, but I consistently do what's healthiest for me, what makes me a better person, and what makes me a better improviser. And I'll say this, I'm not a UCB person, but I believe that there's a good analogy in there, right? So it's like sometimes you have to beat the game or work really hard and do your improv stuff, and then you got to rest the game. So remember to rest and reset yourself, and that works for life and for improv, and marrying the two. So
That's a good point. I know that they say for a lot of like anything athletic or even learning, like it's the rest and recovery that actually like really helps, and not the putting yourself through it. Wendy, you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I just like to add, I work in the therapeutic field, and one thing that we say to people all the time, that when you're feeling those moments of like down, or that you actually within your brain space, if like gratefulness takes up all of the space of your brain. You can't feel something and gratefulness. Gratefulness is what you're feeling. So it's impossible to feel sad and grateful at the same time. So when I'm going through droughts and I feel like, oh my God, I'm just the worst improviser in the world, I really try very hard to just take a step back and say, I'm just so fucking thankful that I get to do improv. I don't care how good it comes out. I get to do this thing that is filling up my soul. I'm helping somebody else become better. And the more that I focus on the thankfulness of it, I actually pull myself out of that faster, and I don't find myself burned out. But that takes practice. I'm not perfect at it, and it takes a lot of practice, but it's really helpful to think about, okay, I can focus on the gratefulness of a situation. And sometimes it's okay to also just really wallow in the stuff that's shitty. It's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff I think that all of you have said. All of you had said at least one thing where I went, yeah, I should do that, but that's going to be a tough change in my way of thinking, in dealing with my ego. Like pulling ourselves up to this higher level, it doesn't come easy. Like to the thankfulness. Like I need to be more thankful. Rich, we have a question.
We have several actually, but before does anyone know where anyone hearing like a weird like bassy thing coming through? I don't know where that's coming from.
Let me mute, because I think it might be me. Let me mute and let's see if you can hear it still.
Oh, it's Elkie.
Yeah. There's some bass happening.
I was in a show the other night, and I was like, I don't hear it. And they're like, it's you. And I'm like, what is that noise? I don't know what it is. Is it very distracting?
probably whatever your device is sitting on, and it's reverberating. Right. So possibly, I don't know.
Yeah.
Now?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, if you don't mind muting it when you're not talking, then when you're talking, just unmute it. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Elke. Appreciate it. CB, you raise your hand. Why don't you turn on?
No, I was just going to say to Elke that it sounds like your next door neighbor is having a party. That is the sound. Maybe they are.
Not an improv party, a real.
Right. CB, go ahead and ask your question.
Yes.
I had a question that I kind of got it during Elke's, but I feel like anybody could answer this. But how do you put yourself in a place to pick up what the audience sees and knows if you don't? Like, what is a strategy to actually improve upon that skill?
Michelle wants to go for it.
Unless Elke wants to go first.
I can't. Now I hear something else. That's not me.
That wasn't you.
That's not you.
That's my washing machine. I'm muting again. Thank you.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Go ahead, Michelle.
Okay, I call it improvising and listening with your entire body, right? So the audience is as much a part of the show as you are, right? So you have to actually think of yourself as an audience member as much as you are on stage, and it's weird concept to think about, but what I do is physically expand myself and my energy before shows, and I visualize myself filling up the whole room. So if I can, so you have to be both an audience member and a player at the same time. I hope this makes sense, CB. But like, if you were sitting in that audience, which we're improvisers, we're nerds, we go to a lot of shows, most likely. You are seeing it as well, and so you have to be both. And also, the way I actually look at it is, let's say you have a 3-person team. The audience, you really have a 4-person team because the audience is your 4th member.
Ah, love it. Love it.
Anyone else want to chime in on that? Elke, did you have?
Oh, Marcus.
Focusing on your scene partner. It all, for me, it all comes back to focusing on your scene partner, because an interesting phenomenon that I talk about in classes is that, like, if you see what your partner did, then the audience saw it. If you don't see what your partner did, the audience saw it. And now you are effectively 1 page behind in the story that the two of you are co-creating. Right? Yeah. So we have to just focus and full body listening. Right? Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Okay.
Yeah, to that point, when Marcus is saying, like, if you're doing something and your partner does something behind your back that only the audience sees, I mean, it's up to that scene partner, the one who made the action behind your back, to do something that will draw that attention, right? Even if it's a simple, oh, you didn't see me doing that behind your back, or whatever, it's about calling it out. There's no room to be coy in improv. That's something that I've learned. Like, it's sometimes stating the obvious will get a big laugh, right? Like, oh, you didn't see that? I was behind you. You didn't see all that shit? Everybody saw it. The moon saw it. You didn't see that? So, it's that. See, y'all found that funny, but that's what it is. Oh, I'm lost. There it is.
No, I just find you funny.
Great.
You've got.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Can I add to that?
Please.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I also, because all these are wonderful, I just want to add, like, trust the audience as you would trust your scene partner. And I assume everyone here have heard everything you need is you can find in your scene partner, which I believe to be true. You need to listen, not just with your ears, but everything, your whole body. That can be extended to the audience. And if you trust the audience to tell you what they need, because they will tell you, they will laugh, they will sigh, they will go forward in excitement. But it takes a lot of training to like tune into that, listen to that, because it's another thing to listen to that takes focus. I'll stop now.
Yeah.
Love it.
And I'm sorry. Another thing, like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with panto, like British panto. It's like over the top, acting, where there's a lot of audience interaction. If you don't know about it, look it up. British panto, PANTO. Okay. And it's a lot of talking, like a lot of stuff that happens behind the actor's back. It allows the audience to say, "Oh no, look behind you!" and there's that interaction. So, like, like what Michelle said, like, the audience is a member. It's the same principle. Like, you even if the audience shouts out, because you will get audience members thinking that they're part of the show, and they will. If they don't like the show, or if they like something in it, or if they want to say something, they will shout it out, especially if they're drunk. And you can't. And like I said, you can't. Everything means something. So if they do that, you can't ignore it. You have to address it, even if it means breaking the fourth wall or making them your Uncle Charlie at the wedding. You know what I mean? Like, you have to incorporate all of that. Like, everything. Yeah.
Oh, so good.
We have a question here. Marty was first in line. Marty?
Yeah, Marty asks,
Yes.
how... Oh, do you want to ask, Marty? Go for it.
Yeah, I'll ask. My question is, how do you tell if you're getting better, or is it just a matter of getting reps?
Yeah, so how can you tell if you're getting better? Yeah, Wendy.
I think it's both. So you can tell, like, you got to always be doing the reps. The reps are just the foundation, right? There's always a moment when, it's a lot like what I was talking about. We don't hear, nobody's doing a documentary to be like, let's see what Michael Phelps does on day 45 of his 300-day training before he goes to the Olympics, which is just reps. He's doing what he's supposed to be doing every day he knows to get better.
Yeah.
So reps are very much a big part of how you can tell you're progressing, because you can always fall back and say, I'm trusting the process, I'm doing the reps. A second way I think that's unusual to tell that you're doing better is to actually look at the people that you're playing with, because if they're getting better, you're getting better. They're getting better, you're getting better. It's impossible to be getting better alone. You're making your partners better. And if they're getting better, that's because of what you're doing on stage to help them get better. So if you really start to feel like, I'm the only one not progressing, you're lying. You are progressing. You're helping them get better. That's making you better. So try to look outward more. Like sometimes it's so hard to be like, me. Just like be excited. Like, oh my gosh, my partner's so fucking funny. I actually have a part to play in that, because they don't get to be that way on stage without all of us being here.
Yeah.
So
Woo!
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Marcus.
So one thing that when I talk about like how I see improvisers progressing, I take it back to like when I was teaching myself how to play guitar. You learn a bunch of information that doesn't necessarily make sense, but trusting the process, which can be really challenging, your brain is crunching that data constantly.
Yeah.
Until at some point you're going to have an moment and you go up a level. And then you're going to now learn new things that you could not have learned when you were on this level, right? So you're always going to be learning more and more, and know that it's not all going to make sense. And that's fine.
Yeah.
So be kind to yourself, right?
Love
As
it.
Michelle was saying.
I love it. Elkie, were you chiming in?
Also, being open and vulnerable. I think it's super important to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Like I see a lot of improvisers always coming into a scene as the alpha, and I'm like, I've never seen you do anything else. Like, why are you always taking control of the scene? If you're open to being whatever, then that's a sign that you are getting better. I know this guy that took classes. He took all the levels at like several improv schools, and his improv never changed. And he was, I hate to say that somebody's terrible, but he was terrible. But he would always brag about, I took UCB, I took this, but he didn't learn anything. That's the problem. He wasn't open to the instruction and to the learning. He was using, oh, well, I've done this, I've done that. Nobody cares if you can't prove it. And if you're, like I said, if you're open to be moldable and teach and being teachable, then you will get better. You will. It might take some time, but it will happen.
Truth. Teddy.
I'm raising my hand. I don't know why.
I saw it. It's very polite.
Yeah, thank you. No, two things. Like first of all, like everything that everyone said so far. To me, there was a shift where improv shows shifted from, oh no, I'm going to do a show, to, hey, I'm going to do a show. So it shifted from fear to excitement, and it happened without me even noticing. So that was great. And I think what I really wanted to say was, I think as improv teachers, we have an obligation to every now and then go back to something we don't know how to do. I recently took an hip-hop, like an improv freestyle workshop, which was so fun, but also really put me back to day one of improv classes. I was terrified. I was judging every idea. I wasn't committing to anything. And I think it is, and the reason why I said this is an obligation as a teacher is to put ourselves in the mindset of our students, because they have that every day of their first class and second class and third class. We don't. We forgot how it was and how it is. But doing stuff like that puts us like I think it's a healthy reminder.
Yeah.
Rich, I don't know if you can tell, I'm getting so sucked into what everyone is saying. I find myself leaning forward more and more instead of just leaning back the way I was. This is so fantastic.
Oh, I did great.
Yeah. Marcus, why don't you go finish what you're going to say, and then we'll go on to Raphael's question.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I just got so excited from hearing everyone talk. I'm like, I could talk improv forever. Rich, I love that pin that you have. Ask me about improv if you've got like, I don't know, 18 hours, days, weeks. So this idea of fear, I feel like one thing that an improviser could look at is when they've made the shift from making moves in their improv scene from a place of fear versus a place of craft. And I've heard many improvisers say in my years, dating myself, that like, they'll say like, improv's a crapshoot. You know, go in and hope for the best. And I'm like, no, that's not how actors do it. And we are actors, right? And good actors get good at the craft. So what can we do to get good at the craft? And that's going to help everything else and help us have consistently good performances. Okay.
Great.
Yeah.
Raphael, you had a question.
I just wanted to ask you guys, what's your guys' take on spiritual enlightenment and like empathy, like with improv? Like, because I feel like I got a lot of that. Like, it's a different kind of wokeness, kind of, you know, like so different from the woke. You know, it changed me, like my brain, like I evolved somehow. But what's your guys' take, like, on that? Like,
Thank you, Rafa. Michelle, go for it.
Thank you, Michelle.
Hey, great question. I think it's different for everybody, right? So, and it's different. We were talking a little bit, which is interesting because I'm surprised we haven't talked about it a little bit more. But Elke kind of touched on vulnerability and being open. And that is where the juice is. So that is where you're improvising and you're flying when you're open, when you're vulnerable, when you're paying attention to everything, literally everything everybody said here today, right? When you're talking about the hard stuff, like Wendy said, when you're on and off stage, right? So when you're paying attention to everything, when you're using every part of the animal, when you are doing all of that, that is yes, it takes you to a different level. And for me, it's appreciation. Like, I appreciate who I'm on stage with. I appreciate the audience. That's also part of my pre-show ritual, and not ritual, but like whatever, what I do. I'm thankful for everything that's happening. And it takes me to a place that I say, like last night I was performing with a friend of mine, but they're kind of, you know, they've been doing this a long time as well at UCB, my friend Will Hines. And I was like, but something that I say to myself all the time is, this is going to be the best show I've ever had. And that's what happens. And it's incredible and it's fun. And yeah, it takes you to a different level. I don't know if that answered your question, but I get excited about it.
That's awesome. Wendy.
I'll say that I think empathy is a huge part of the piece of what makes somebody be a good human and thus a good improviser. Empathy is a form of validation and listening to another person that takes it to a deeper level. And when we're validating and listening to other people, that's how you create safety. And the only way that you can bring out the best improviser in the partner that you're with or yourself is if it's a safe space to do that. And the only way that that occurs is when there is validation and when there is empathy and when there is vulnerability and honesty. Those are the things that create safe places for people where change actually happens. Change doesn't happen when people don't feel safe. So those become major keys in helping you progress and the the people that you're with progress. So the more of an empathetic person that you can become, the more you can listen and validate and be vulnerable and open and honest with people, you're just going to become the best. Like, it's just continuing on to be a better improviser.
Nice. Terry.
Let's see. Thoughts. English hard. Well, I think improv can be many things. It can be just fun and games and play, and it can be, as you say, like almost like a spiritual awakening. I think it's very, very subjective, very individual. But I do like I just saw there's a Netflix show called The Kaminsky Method, and I think it's season 2. There's a student in the class, and she always has these barriers up. And they have this moment where he sort of breaks her down, not in a way I would do, but still like breaks her down. And when she comes back, they have this great talk where he talks about like, you can put all this into your work and how you can use that to I guess, create a safer world for yourself. Be safer, which goes back to what Wendy said, and like that empathy, that safe space for not just for other people, but for yourself too. So yeah.
And to remember that people's movements through this is different than yours. So that empathy is actually the opposite of forcing somebody to break through their wall when they're not ready or able to. That we are not therapists in an improv theater. And so if somebody has a barrier that you see, think about how you can love them and help them feel safer to feel like they can start breaking down that barrier themselves. It's not your job to break anyone else's barrier down.
So good.
Sorry, the therapist to me was like, I have to say that.
No, I love it. I love it. Elkie?
Oh, also it's about energy. Like if you're going into an improv scene, like your scenes are all gonna reflect that. And it's gonna bum your scene partner out, and they're gonna be like, ugh, I don't want to be in this scene with them because somebody tagged them out quick. Like if you go in there, that's why like a lot of teams they have like that, you know, they psych themselves up and they're like, I got your back, or they'll do like a chant or something, because you have to have that blood flow. You have to because you don't know what's going to happen. You have to be prepared for anything, because that's what improv is. It's the unknown. So you have to be prepared. Even if it's a scene where you have to be down, you can't, even if you're like down, like, but you still have high energy, you know, if that makes sense. You can't be completely down. Like, and completely down, you know? So yeah.
I just want to piggyback off of what Elkie said. Like, I'm like the opposite. Like, to me, it's like there's so much energy happening in the room, right? With the improvisers as well as the audience and all of us together. Like, I get calmer because people are panicking so hard. So like that, I just like, it's for me, it's like I have to be the calm, and it works for me, and it helps the show as well. But yeah, I love that though, but people do that. Yeah.
Oh, great. Thanks for that question so much. We got time for 2 more questions. So Shirley asks, how much do you use your improv training in real life situations consciously? Wendy.
All the time. So I work in a therapeutic residential setting with teenage kids. There's not a single moment of my day that I am not relying on my improv training to know how to yes and a situation that comes in front of me that I'm not ready for, or how to actively listen when they're telling you about some of the really hard traumatic experiences that they've had, or just how to outwit them sometimes to get them to think about something in a different way, or ask a lot of questions, or be really interested in what they have to say and what they're doing in their process. For me, it is like the same. I had a real moment where I found the therapeutic field after I did improv, and I was sitting in the middle of a dialectical behavior therapy training, and somebody said, what is your biggest insight? And I said, this is just improv. You guys just stole this all, right, from improv? And the person was like, I don't know what improv is. I'm like, you do. It's this. So it's all the same. It's the same stuff. I use it all the time, every single day. My husband and I are constantly doing bits with each other. If you're not doing it, like, it's a way to live your life.
Yeah.
So Do it.
I love it. Okay.
Oh,
Oh,
Okay.
somebody else.
no, Elkie,
okay.
go, please.
So yeah, I all the time, like it helps with everything. There's a reason why stand-up comedians take improv classes, right? It helps with, you know, responding to hecklers. I knew this, and it helps me all the time because I'm like I always like to have a quip whenever something happens. Like I'm that person always got something smart I like to say. And before improv, they they tended to be mean and hurtful. But you know, with improv, it's helped me to be more PC with it. It's still like, you know, a jab, but it's like a friendly jab, you know, something that an audience would appreciate. Like I knew this guy at the pit that he was super shy. He had no intentions of being like in the entertainment field, but his friend told him that take an improv class, and it's a confidence booster. And this guy, I'm telling you, he was the most awkward guy, and he went from being super awkward to, like, we were on the train one day, he just walking up to girls asking them questions, and we're like, who are you? Like it's a definite confidence booster. It will help you deal with almost any situation, really. That's the ad for improv.
I dig it. Terry.
Thank you. I had to remind myself this the last year, or rediscover. I don't know which is the correct one. But to make a very, very long story short, because of COVID, I had to shut down everything. And last year, I had since March, 7 months with zero income. And I live in Norway, which apparently are supposed to have like a good safety net and whatever. But for some reason, I've fallen through all of them. Now, I spent a lot of energy on the negative parts of this, where I was like, and just pointing fingers to, like, validly so. But at one point, I was like, you know what, this needs to stop, because I need to apply my improv mindset. This is what is. What doesn't matter what was planned for and didn't happen. This is what I have to work with. And I need to work from there instead of looking backwards into what was. So I guess that is one of the positive things about the COVID situation, is such a reminder of, like, applying these things, as everyone says, to, like, daily life. Things happen, plans fall apart, and we can spend all day arguing over whose fault it is, or we could just go, okay, that's what we got to work with. So yeah,
I love it, Marcus.
Yeah, so I consider myself extremely, extremely blessed and lucky that I've been able to do this full time since 2014. And this is like, I'm breathing and drinking improv constantly, thinking about it. For me, it was like the idea of improv mindset, right? That improv thinking. Yeah, I closed my theater doors a week before any other theaters in San Francisco, because I just saw the writing on the wall. I'm like, oh crap, this is coming down the pipeline.
Yeah.
What's next? Right? And that's kind of like my internal mantra for business. Yes, and business opportunities, and yes, and just in life. You know, I ask myself, what do I want to see with online improvisation? Because of my film background, I'm like, oh, I think that there's a different way to do online improvisation. And so I fully committed to myself. And I yes anded every idea. And I'm not going to lie. Like, when I was creating teleprov and the fly technique, some people were like, that's weird. What are you doing? I'm like, trust me, I've got a vision for this. And just the technical diagram alone to make a teleprov show work is insane. I've been mixing different technologies together that technically shouldn't work together, but I'm layering them so they do. So improv is out of the box thinking in its purest form.
Well,
There's no boundaries. Go do it.
love
Make
it.
the thing happen.
Wendy.
Yeah.
It's just very small because there's a follow-up question that said, "What's the difference you noted before and after your life in improv?" And mine's a really simple answer, which is, I just became more effective
There it is.
as a
where it
human
is.
being.
That's huge. As a human being, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Humaning
yeah.
hard.
Michelle?
We have time for one more question.
Hey, Michelle wanted to chime in on that one.
Oh,
I would
sorry.
say
Thank
something
you.
really quick. So, in my 20s, I had a pretty healthy business that I created right after I took a break from improv, but it was everything that I used were my improv skills. And so it was a healthy six-figure business, and I had people that worked for me all over the country, and all improv, and I was teaching them improv techniques. I was using improv techniques, and it was like I never left because I had to teach them how to overcome objections, all that fun stuff. And it literally is the best thing for life.
Oh, brilliant. Brilliant. Last question?
Yeah, last question. Liz Mary asks, do I have to study acting to maximize my improv capacity? Or if I do enough improv practice, am I becoming an okay actor?
Ooh. Michelle?
Yeah, Michelle.
No, you don't have to study acting. You don't. You can. Improv is an art within itself, and it is also acting and incorporates that. But if you want to, you can. I mean, that goes to like expanding your base and being creative. If you want to, you can. But absolutely, you don't have to do anything.
There it is.
Improv.
Terry?
I think this is I think we're all natural born actors. But something happens in our brain when we get focused, when we go on a stage, or when we just raise our hand in a room like this. And our brain works in a different way, like fight, freeze, flight mode. So we're all of a sudden we're capable of less. And I think if you're able to distract your brain, and there's so many ways to do that, especially like improv tools and whatnot, you will just become the best actor in the world just by disconnecting that part of the brain, or twisting your brain into like not feeling that fight, freeze, or flight response, and you don't even have to take an improv class. Just you're the greatest actor already.
I love it. Elkie?
Okay.
I would say it's the opposite. Take an improv class instead of taking an acting class, because like I said, improv is freestyle acting, and if you learn those tools, like acting is a breeze once you know all the tools for improv. You know, and it's not just, you know, you're just thinking of stuff on the fly. There's rules and there's tools, and I think there are more rules and tools in improv than there are in regular acting. So I would say taking an improv class is even more beneficial than an acting class, because, you know, with acting, you're learning one thing. You're learning how to read a script and be expressive, but how are you being expressive on the fly? That's a skill right there.
I know Marcus hasn't gone, but I just want to say this really quick because I want to hear his take. I should preface that with saying I have an acting background. But I do strongly feel you don't need it. But I know Marcus is an actor, so I want to hear what you have to say.
You're on, Marcus.
So, okay, so do you have to take an acting class? No. Will it give you new tools to use? Yes. I think that as improv instructors, all any improv instructor can ever do is show you the tools that they use, because they've become the master at those specific tool sets. So I always say study everywhere, get a bunch of tools so that you can apply those tools to your craft. Now, what I say to any person coming into improv, I'm like, you're already an improviser. You've been improvising every moment of every day of your life. Yeah. The only thing that I'm going to do is highlight the skills that you're using, show you roadblocks that could potentially make your improv journey more challenging. I mean, hell, in my level 1, we don't do a lot of scene work. It's all about working on the individual and looking at like what things will prevent you from being amazing later on.
Yeah.
another job of the improv instructor is to highlight and illuminate the paths of possibilities. And you only get that by doing the reps, by having the experience. I could go off. I'm done.
Wendy, last word.
My last thing, because I agree with everything everybody said. I would say that your best question is to find out where that question comes from inside of you. Is it because you want to take an acting class, or is it because somebody told you you can't be a good improviser unless you take an improv class? If the first one is the answer, take an acting class, grow, become better, do what you want to do. If it's because somebody told you it has to be one way or the other, fuck that person. They don't know what they're talking about. There's no right way to do anything. It's about you and your journey. So find out where that comes from.
Preach.
I love that.
Okay.
I just want to say I'm not knocking acting because I have an acting background. I went to a performing arts junior high and high school. I went to FAME. So I know about having an acting background, but I feel like in my improv, I felt like I've learned more tools than I did in those 8 years I spent in school, you know, learning acting. And I learned lots of techniques, but I just want to make sure y'all understand. I'm not knocking.
The acting police are not going to come for you. At least I won't tell them.
Marcus has one more thing he wanted to add.
Oh, please.
So I love that, Elke, because like here you go to an acting school, right, to learn how to be more human. Yet if you just take improv, you're learning to become more human and own your voice, which then can translate into your characters from the script, right? We can see actors sometimes like have lifeless performances because they haven't delved deep enough into those characters. But if you can learn to do that on the fly, look, there is a reason why casting directors all over the place are looking for improv at the top of the resume, right? It's because that means that the actor that you're going to be dealing with is going to be present in the moment and right there. All right, I'm done.
Awesome. We could go on forever. There's so much wisdom here, but we got to wrap this up.
And that's what makes this so great. Oh.
Thank you again to all of our speakers.
Thank you.
Thank you to everyone who's here. What we'd love to do is get, if anyone